Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. My name is Amir Hosna binti Zainuddin and I will introduce our code project based on the massive 2024 ransomware attack on Change Healthcare. Looking at the background of the incident, the attack was discovered on February 21, 2024 by the ALPHV or Black Cat ransomware group. They successfully gained initial access by exploiting a compromised Citrix remote portal that completely lacked multi-factor authentication security measures. This security gap led to a catastrophic financial and operational impact, disrupting patient care in 74% of US hospitals, freezing over $6.3 billion in medical claims, and exfiltrating 6 terabytes of sensitive data belonging to nearly 100 million patients. This critical situation ultimately forced a $22 million Bitcoin ransomware payment. To address the importance of network security, our report outlines a clear scope of analysis. Part A delivers a detailed forensic analysis of the attack lifecycle, while Part B focuses on designing a modernized, resilient network infrastructure built on strict zero trust principle. Next, I will pass the floor to Anis to discuss the technical attack lifecycle. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Anis Nadef Thomas Amrit and I am acting as the attack analysis for this project. Today I will be presenting attack lifecycle analysis and critical analysis regarding the 2024 Change Healthcare ransomware cyber attack. So let's dissect how the Black Cat or ALPHV ransomware group systematically breached the network. This attack is broken down into 4 distinct stages. First initial access. In February 2024, the threat actors gained an authenticated foothold via a Citrix remote access portal. This specific gateway acted as a single point of failure because it did not have multi-factor authentication implemented. So the attackers simply used valid user credentials bought from a Telegram group to log in seamlessly without triggering any external alarms. The second stage is privilege escalations. Once inside the Citrix environment, the actors aggressively moved to upgrade the access from standard domain users to domain administrators. So they achieved this by dumping authentication hashes of high privilege tokens stored in the system memory and exploiting misconfiguration within the Active Directory architecture. Next is the third stage, lateral movement. To evade modern endpoint detection, Black Cat relied heavily on leaving of the land techniques. Instead of deploying conspicuous malware, they disguised themselves as legitimate administrators using native tools like RDP, PowerShell, and WMI. So this allowed them to traverse undetected into the core production servers hosting the medical billing and payment processing databases. So the fourth and final stage is data exfiltration. Before deploying the ransomware payload, they executed a double extortion strategy by stealing 6 terabytes of sensitive patient data. So this massive volume of data was staged, compressed, and stealthily exfiltrated using an administrative cloud sync utility called rclone. From this forensic breakdown, we can extract 3 critical analyses regarding modern cyber issues. So 1. The myth of perimeter security, the classic castle and moat approach fails spectacularly. Change Healthcare's flat network architecture allowed the attackers to move laterally without any internal re-authentication barriers. 2. Identify is the new perimeter. So the attackers no longer need to exploit complex software vulnerabilities. They simply log in using compromised credentials due to gaps in identify management and MFA enforcement. The last one, number 3, is supply chain interdependence. Change Healthcare is a central clearinghouse for national infrastructure. By targeting a massive industry aggregator, threat actors achieve maximum extortion leverage by disrupting an entire country's medical sector simultaneously. So this comprehensive lifecycle analysis provides the structural foundation for my team members, Atira and Sumaya, to identify the specific vulnerabilities and design our modernized security solution. Thank you.
Okay, now we move to the vulnerabilities identification, which is in this part, it discusses the vulnerabilities that enable the change ransomware attack in 2024. Based on the forensic investigation, the weaknesses can be divided into 3 categories, which is technical, human, and organization vulnerabilities. These vulnerabilities allow the attacker to gain access, move through the network, steal sensitive healthcare data, and eventually deploy ransomware that disrupted healthcare services across the United States. Okay, now let's see at the first vulnerabilities, which is technical vulnerabilities. The most critical technical vulnerability was the absence of multi-factor authentication on the Citrix remote access portal. Attacker purchased stolen credential and logged in successfully because no additional authentication was required. Another major weakness was poor network segmentation. Once inside the network, attacker used legitimate tools such as PowerShell, RDP, and WMI to move literally across the system. The attacker were also able to escalate privilege and due to weaknesses in Active Directory configuration and expose credential. And finally, insufficient endpoint detection and monitoring allow the attacker to stay hidden inside the environment for approximately 9 days before launching the ransomware attack. Okay, now we move to the second vulnerabilities, which is organization. Several organization witness amplified the impact of the attack. The attacker remained inside the network for more than a week before being detected, indicating weaknesses in incident response capabilities, and the organization also lacked a mutual zero trust architecture. Once authenticate users were generally trusted within the network, allowing attacker to move more easily. Another issue was the heavy centralization of healthcare transaction processing. Since many healthcare providers depend on change healthcare, the attacker create a nationwide disruption. With disaster recovery planning and strong dependence on third-party network for the further increase the severity of the incident. Okay, then now we move to the last vulnerabilities, which is for the human. Human factor also contributes significant to the attack. Poor credential management may have allowed employee credential to become compromised through previous breach or phishing attack. In addition, insufficient, insufficient, insufficient cybersecurity awareness training could have increased the risk of credential theft. The organization also appear to grant excessive privilege to some user, which violated the principle of least privilege. Because attackers use legitimate administration tools, their activities look similar to normal administration action, and it making it's more difficult for security personnel to detect the instruction. This attack flow diagram illustrates the complete attack lifecycle used by Black Cat ransomware group. The attack started when the attacker purchased stolen credential from a Telegram marketplace using this credential. They logged into the Citrix portal, which lacked multi-factor authentication. After gaining access, they established a foothold in the internet network, escalated their privilege to obtain administrator level access. They then move literally using legitimate administrative tools such as PowerShell, RDP, and WMI. Next, the attacker conducted reconnaissance into identify critical billing system and hardware database. Approximately 6 terabytes of sensitive hardware data were exfiltrated before the ransomware was deployed. Finally, the ransomware encrypted system, causing a major disruption to billing, pharmacy, and healthcare service nationwide.
So next, I will present about 6.0 Security Solution Design. So my name is Maya Metigazali and my metric number is 079253. So first of all, based on this figure 6.1, it shows the proper security architecture for change healthcare. So all the architecture begins with internet user who wants to access the organization service. So firstly, all the incoming traffic pass through a firewall, which is it will filter all the malicious traffic and block unauthorized connection. Next, user must complete MFA, which is multi-factor authentication, to verify all their identity using an additional authentication factor besides a strong password. And then after successful authentication, IAM ensure that user can only access resources based on their rules and permissions. So once authorized, and then user enter the internet network, which is segmented into 3 main zones, which is healthcare system, pharmacy system, and business system. So it will help to prevent the attacker from moving freely between systems if one segment is compromised. So all the activity within this system are continuously monitored by the security, information and event management, which is SIEM platform. So what is SIEM platform do? It is to collect logs, analyze event, and also to detect suspicious activity in real time, and allowing the security team to respond quickly to potential threats. So, and then finally, the backup and disaster recovery component ensure that the critical data and service can be restored quickly in the event of a ransomware attack, system failure, or other cybersecurity incidents. So based on the flow table in this slide, so this is a simplified overview of the proper security architecture, which is it shows the flow of how users access the network and how different security controls are applied at each stage to protect the organization system and data. So the design aims to address the vulnerability identified during the attack analysis, including weak access control, lack of MFA, poor monitoring, and inadequate network segmentation. So cybersecurity technologies such as MFA, IAM, Zero Trust, SIEM, EDR, and also backup and disaster recovery are integrated to strengthen the overall security posture and improve the resilience against future cyber threats. So that's all. I will pass the presentation to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. For part 7.0, I will explain the recommendation security technology proposed to prevent similar ransomware attacks from happening again at Change Healthcare. For the first technology is multi-factor authentication, which is MFA. It requires the user to complete an additional verification steps such as OTP and authentication steps before accessing a system. This is important because the attackers in this Change Healthcare incident successfully entered the network using the stolen credentials. With MFA enabled, authentication user could have a much harder time change access. The second technology is IATT Access Management, which is IAM. IAM ensures that users only receive access permission necessary for their job roles. This helps reduce the risk of privilege escalation and limit the damage that can be used caused if an account is compromised. Another important technology is Zero Trust Architecture. It follows the principle of never trust, always verify. Every user and device must be continuous application before accessing organization resource. This prevents attackers from moving freely inside the network after gaining internal access. Finally, the network segment divides the network into separate security zones. This limits lateral movement and prevent attackers from accessing multi-critical systems at once. The next group of technology focuses on detecting, treat, and improving security. Security information and event management, which is SIEM, collect and analyze security logs from different systems. It helps security teams detect suspicious activity in real time and respond quickly before major incidents occur. Endpoint detection and response, which is EDR, continuous monitoring devices such as computer, laptop, and device. It can identify abnormal behavior and automatically isolate computer device to stop malware from spread throughout the network. The final recommendation is backup and disaster recovery. Regular backup ensures that important data can be restored after an attack, while disaster recovery projects help organizations resume operation as quick as possible. In conclusion, the technology that addresses the main weakness identified in the healthcare attacks include weak authentication, pure access control, limited monitoring, and separate recovery planning. By implementing this solution, organizations can significantly improve their cybersecurity posture and reduce the risk of future ransomware attacks. Thank you.
Okay, for my part, I will make an evaluation of this technology. Here on this table, we compare the technologies based on implementation cost and also security benefit. Here we can see MFA offers the best cost to benefit ratio, providing a strong protection to a relatively low cost. IAM, EDR, and also network segmentation require a moderate investment while significantly improving security. SIEM and Zero Trust Architecture are more expensive to implement, but they deliver an advanced monitoring, threat detection, and also access control. Overall, although some technologies require higher investment, their benefit greatly outweigh the cost by reducing cyber risk and also strengthening the organizational resilience. Okay, here for the evaluation on the impact on users. The proper security controls has both positive and negative impact on user. On the positive side, they provide a stronger protection for sensitive patient data and also improve service reliability. Technologies such as SIEM and also EDR help reduce the risk of service disruption. However, users may experience minor inconveniences such as additional authentication steps through MFA, stricter access control, and more frequent identity verification. With proper training and awareness program, these changes can be effectively managed. Okay, for this slide is about the evaluation on the implementation challenges. Several challenges must be addressed during the implementation. First, legacy healthcare system may not be fully compatible with the modern security technologies. Second, organization must manage the costs associated with the deployment and ongoing maintenance. Third, user resistance to new security procedure may affect the adoption, making change management and training essential. Finally, all security measures must comply with healthcare regulations such as HIPAA and PDPA. Despite these challenges, successful implementation greatly improve the organizational security and resilience. Okay, lastly, for our reflection, the most challenging part of this project was the analyzing the change of healthcare ransomware attack and identifying the key vulnerability that allow the attackers to compromise the system. We also need to determine which security technologies will be the most effective in addressing these weaknesses. To overcome these challenges, our group divided the research task among our members, reviewed credible cybersecurity sources, and also discussed our findings collaboratively. Through this process, we were able to design a comprehensive zero trust security architecture that enhances access control, threat detection, and overall organizational resilience against future cyber attacks.